on behalf of Avian Science College and on behalf of Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University, on behalf of the speakers, I heartily welcome you, Paul, to our session. Welcome to our session of the new session for the international seminar. Over to you, Paul. And I hope that will be all of you will be able to get connected in this bad weather. It's a very pretty bad weather here in Kerala now. So I hope we'll all be able to complete the session without any interruption. Let's hope so. Over to you, Paul. Welcome once again.
Fine, thank you very much, Doctor, for that introduction, and good morning, and good morning to everyone. I'd just like to say that I've worked for Aviagen in many countries in the past 25 years, but the longest place I've stayed in is where we are now, which is in India. And for the past 12 years, I've had a really wonderful time here and enjoy working here very, very much indeed. I'd like to begin by just putting a few notes down, really, putting a few boundaries down. I'm not an economist. In fact, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a doctor. I'm actually a chicken man, and I'm mainly a chicken salesman. So you'll have to bear with me if this turns into a bit of a selling job. I don't want to talk about COVID-19 because everybody's talking about COVID-19. And what this is about what happens after COVID-19, which is really the important thing for the industry. And of course, what we've learned from this terrible experience with this disease. My subject is the broiler business, and I realize that's only one part of a very big poultry business, particularly here in India. The egg business is a very big sector within the poultry business in India. But I want to confine my talks today to just on the broiler business. I'm going to talk about some changes and trends, and you know what? They might not happen, and it's not my fault. I just want to make that point now. Okay. I am not the author of this map, but I think it's a very, very interesting map. I wish I was really, but if you look at this map now, you can see that you can put 21 countries into India. You can put the population of 21 countries into India, and it would make up the 1.3 billion. And just to give you some idea of the population here, 1.3 billion, if you take Uttar Pradesh, that will take the whole population of Brazil. So you can see the size, and what really drives the business here in India and the growing economy is the 1.3 billion people. The interesting thing is I took these 21 countries and I calculated their parent stock volume. Now, the parent stock volume is a measure the genetics guide companies use to calculate the opportunities. And those 21 countries gave a parent stock volume of 200 million parent stock. And in reality, what we have today in India is 35 million parent stock. 35 million. So what that says to me is that there's a tremendous opportunity for the growth of poultry in India in the coming years. And India is changing fast. What we find is even in the poultry industry, the changes that happen much faster in India than many, many other countries. But here as a nation, we're moving from a rural society to a much more urban-based society and economy. They say it's the largest migration in history, with more than 400 people moving over time into the urban cities. If you look at 2050, they are predicting that Delhi and Mumbai will surpass 50 million populations. Now, that's more than the population of Canada in Delhi or Mumbai. And then there is the humongous task that the government has in finding jobs for over 1 million young and increasingly more educated children coming into the workforce every year. So there's quite a few changes happening and quite a few challenges. If you look at the poultry business, India ranks 4th And sometimes people say fifth, fourth or fifth. It doesn't matter really at the end of the day, because we're going to be on the medal podium very soon. We'll keep on growing. So the poultry meat production is very, very large in India, and we're already the fourth or the fifth country in the world. Until the recent pandemic, the industry was moving ahead at quite a nice click. It was averaging about 7%, just under 7% growth per year. I do anticipate that that will come back in the next 18 months or so. We will follow that same pattern again. On the other end of the scale here, we've got meat consumption, which is less than 5 kilos per capita. So what a contrast here. We've got we're the fourth or fifth largest poultry producer in the world, and we're only eating less than 5 kilos per capita. So it just shows that where the opportunities lie in improving the consumption of poultry meat in India and what the opportunities are. I will tell you now that the average for the world, the average is about 11 to 12 kilos per capita. So we're well below the bar as far as the average concerned. And to me, that's only about opportunities that exist in the future. Because one thing about chicken, it's the only chicken you can control its costs, you can manage its supply, you can operate the infrastructure, and you can send its products to all parts of India. It doesn't matter where you are in India, you'll find chicken. That doesn't happen with fish, doesn't happen with goat, and the other meats don't matter. So chicken really has a wonderful opportunity to grow and develop in India. Now, we just need to eat more chicken. And I think that will be a thing that will run through this presentation all the time. Not without its challenges. There are many challenges that we have to overcome on this road to success. And here's just a few. The industry operates what I believe is an outmoded and inefficient supply chain. You have the farmer, you have the trader, sometimes you have the dealer, sometimes a wholesaler, and then you have the retailer. There are too many people trying to take a margin out of these out of the product, and it's causing difficulties. It leads first of all, it leads to extreme volatility in the market. The price of the lifting birds, the retail price of chicken, the price of the DOC, the price of hatching eggs, extremely volatile. Nobody can crystal ball or predict what's going to happen. But what is the difficult bit is what it does, it doesn't create an environment of investment because investors want more stability, not market volatility. And it's particularly apparent as we look at the business today at the farmer level, where there is a lack of solid investment into the business for the future. What we have is really stress margins. This is the sort of thing that we have. Margins are up and down, whether it be a trader, a dealer, and particularly a farmer, wholesalers or markets or retailers. We've got a stressed margin, which is creating this volatility. What we need is more stable margins. What we need is a shorter supply chain. What we need is more benefit for the farmer and the processor. And for the processor, I mean the integrator. Processors don't stand alone. They're part of an integration. And then that leads to the retail. So that we have a much smoother process, less volatility, and more encouraging signs for investment and commitment to investments in the future. But there are more challenges as well, and I'll just briefly touch on some of these. No GMOs makes India less competitive in export markets for broiler meat. It's a great pity, really, because I think India down the road will have great opportunities for exporting of broiler meat. But let me tell you the challenge that we've got. If you took a broiler ration in Brazil today, it would cost you $250 per ton. That same broiler ration in India today would cost you $383 a ton, 50% more. So there's a big challenge to get ourselves competitive if we want to enjoy the export markets in the world. And why should we leave it just to Brazil or the US to enjoy those export markets or Thailand? We want to and deserve a share of those export markets. And I'm sure we will get that in the future. We have to be cognizant of the fact that with the World Trade Organization, imports are likely to increase. We have to be ready for this. People put their head in the sand and they don't say it will never happen. Believe you me, the US and the Brazilian companies have India on their radar, no question. Now, right now, they're not bothering too much. And the reason is because all their product is going to China. And it's going to China. Sorry. And it's going to China because with the African swine fever, there isn't enough pork around, so they're taking much greater supplies of chicken from US and Brazil. I think I'll just also tell you that when you look at the cost of production, if you look at our cost of production right now today, we're probably about 98 cents a kilo, dollar cents a kilo. If you look at the Brazil, it's 55 cents dollar cents. And if you look at the US, it's around 6. Okay. Another area where we're challenged with is what we call gaps in the protective vaccine shield. We all know about vaccines today because it's always in the news. But as far as the poultry business is concerned, there are certain vaccines which are readily available in many other parts of the world, but not in India. Vaccines such as Marek's serotype, CAV, chicken anemia virus, and AE, avian encephalitis. These are necessary vaccines, but we must try to encourage the government to actually license to give us protection in the future. Pardon? Keep going. Another point is no antibiotics. This has been a very topical subject. I think we'll see less use of antibiotics in the future and more use of probiotics, and that's a good thing. We need to improve the gut health of the birds, and this will help us do that and develop our management systems to ensure that the birds are kept healthy and have a good gut health. It doesn't matter how good your feed is, but if your gut is not working well, you're wasting your precious feed. So no antibiotics should be the norm, and more probiotics. Another issue that we have to be aware of and challenges is animal welfare. This is an issue which will not go away, and I will touch on that a little bit towards the end of the presentation. And, you know, recruiting new and qualified people in the industry is also going to be very, very important for us. Actually, as an industry, we're not really seen as very sexy. It's an agricultural business. We have to find ways to make it more sexy and make it more appealing for recruiting new and more qualified people to the industry. And as the industry develops and becomes more sophisticated, we are going to need more qualified people to join the industry and keep it moving forward. And finally, one of the challenges is on one voice. The industry currently lacks a single point of reference for the government and some of the stakeholders. What I believe we need in terms of where we want to promote the industry and its objectives, and it is an Indian Poultry Council. An IPC is needed. Underneath that, of course, you could have the Breeder Council, the hatchery federations, this sort of thing. But we need an all-embracing All India Poultry Council so that we can have very positive and productive dialogue with the governments. Now, those are just some of the challenges, but there are many changes, and these have been taking place before coronavirus, and some are new, and some will continue afterwards. And here are a few. Live and wet or processed. 95% of all the chicken in India is sold live and only 5% processed. I think of all the changes emerging in the Indian poultry, this is the most significant one. And it will be accelerating as a result of the recent COVID-19, a move away from selling live birds to offering processed and dressed poultry. Live bird markets and shops will disappear. Public health is not going to allow this practice and is concerned about the disposal of inedible offals, feathers and blood. The risk, as we know from our own experience, the spread of zoonotic diseases is high. Since generally biosecurity, biosafety, hygiene, and all those sanitation principles are not practiced very well in live bird markets. The belief that live bird markets are gone well, the question is, will wet markets stay? And I believe the answer is yes. But there's a few misnomers. The belief that consumers only associate freshness with live birds is flawed. Consumers prefer fresh, but they also want clean chicken, hygienic, properly prepared, wholesome, tasty, and convenient, and almost in that order. And not only that, the Indian consumer is becoming much more aware and sensitized to the issues of hygiene because of the pandemic. So everyone will be pushing for better standards in wet markets or in shops, wherever they're buying their chicken. And chicken sellers in wet markets will have to adjust to these new standards of hygiene and selling dressed chicken. And for that, they need poultry processing plants to provide the solution. And in my view, processing plants and processing will become really the engine house of the business in the India. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time before that happens. But already the larger integrations in India have already grasped the importance of processing. Not only are they going to produce a more consistent hygienic product, but also it gives them the great branding opportunity. The great branding opportunity to develop new products, line extensions, ready-to-cook products, ready-to-eat products. It then becomes very sexy. Branding is what really is going to drive the business forward in the future. And there are many people looking for unique selling propositions to put their name onto branded chicken. We're also going to see many innovations in product presentation and packaging, new processing methods, individually quick frozen products, enhanced shelf life for fresh chicken. It's a very, very exciting time, but it will all be driven through the processing plant. And chicken shops are going to change. They're definitely going to change. They will have to change. Specialist chicken shops, I believe, offer a really excellent bridge from live to wet to fresh chicken daily. But the secret of success of these chicken shops for the future is the competence and training of the staff, the ambience of the shop, the quality and the choice of the products that they offer. And they will be very, very successful in the urban areas. And of course, we have, coming out of this pandemic, we've seen emerge a completely new sector. Direct to consumer, D2C. Traceability is assured with freshness and quality. Post-COVID, the home delivery sector will continue to grow. It is a very, very exciting new segment that's emerged in the poultry business. It offers not just convenience and freshness, and it's delivered to your home. I think the traditional supermarket retailing will also have to adjust. It's been rather slow to develop in India, and so it's rather underdeveloped right now. And it doesn't sell very little chicken. There is already increasing competition, for instance, to the home delivery. So when supermarkets do develop, and they will develop, they will have to innovate. They'll have to self-service checkouts, home delivery. They will do order and pickup. And I think actually we will see probably displays like this in warehouse clubs like Best Buy. They will probably take the lead, and they will take the lead initially through selling different varieties of frozen chicken, because building a reputation for selling fresh produce, and I include fresh chicken, takes a long time. So I believe that chicken sales through traditional supermarkets will expand, but in the frozen category in the early stages. So in summary to this section, there is no place for live bird slaughtering other than in a licensed processing facility. Wet markets, I think, will remain, but there will be much stricter controls on hygiene and consumer safety. Specialist chicken shops, if done properly, will really find a very brisk trade amongst people who prefer fresh chicken, presented in infinite varieties of traditional cuts and value-added items. And this product into these shops will come from processing factories in integrated operations. And processing plants will also develop to service all these sectors we talked about earlier, and also the wet markets, the specialist meat shops, online retail, and also the traditional supermarket. Now, there are some changes that are going to be happening down on the farm. More controlled environment houses, closed houses. I think this is a wonderful initiative. As it says there quite rightly, it's a socio-economic initiative. It is a wonderful initiative to give farmers the opportunity to actually move to closed environment housing and benefit from all the benefits of that. They will no longer have to be challenged by the summer conditions, as they often are in open houses. Their stocking densities will be able to increase. Their revenue will increase, as it says here, but almost doubling their income. More environment-controlled houses will become the norm. There is a rapid move now to this, and this is what integrated operations will want to have in future. There are some other more changes done on the farm, but I believe we might see more breeders on deep litter. There is a cage issue, as we know, but also we believe that as the breeding farms get bigger, it's very difficult to practice artificial insemination with such great numbers. Deep litter uses natural mating, and in closed houses, we have found that the hatchability levels are as good as if on cage systems. So I believe more breeders would be on deep litter. Conversely, I think more broilers will be in cages. I think more broilers will be in cages. And it's interesting that if you look at the stocking density, if you put your birds into a deep litter house, your broilers, you can stock at 32 to 42 kilos of live bird per square meter. Well, if you put the broilers in cages, you can increase that to 55 kilos per square meter. So you see, and if you go one step back and you're using the open house style, you're probably 1 to 1.2 square feet per bird. So the opportunities for increasing the revenue from the broiler business would be greatly enhanced. I think you'll see a lot more automation and less unskilled labour. I asked one of my colleagues to ask what automation does he see coming through, and he sent me a wonderful list. EC houses, fully automated ventilation systems which control the temperature, humidity and CO2, automated water systems, automated lighting systems, automated egg collection, automated bird skin, and all of the above from one controller on your desk, you would be able to manage the farms. So I think we're going to see a lot more automation coming into the business. And more smart farms. I'm not just talking here about solar, but I'm talking about things such as, and these are already in place in some countries, robots for walking the floors to move the birds. CCTV camera to 24-hour surveillance of the birds, thermal imaging of the birds to determine signs of early disease. Now, aren't we seeing that in the airports these days? Well, it may be coming soon to the chicken house. Noise detection equipment to monitor bird behavior. And this is one I like very much, Fitbit tags to monitor bird movement and behavior. So we're all going to be looking at smart ideas for smart farms in the future. And of course, what are we going to need to do this? We're going to need more skilled labor, not unskilled labor, more skilled labor. We're going to have to be able to manage control systems. We're going to be able to have to manage broilers in cages. Cages are quite sophisticated, complicated things. We're going to need more skilled labor in the future. We've already talked about the vaccine shield. We do need that coverage, and this is particularly important as we build farms, bigger farms with more stocking densities, with greater risk from diseases. We do need to have that vaccine shield. And again, we've also need to make sure that we're only using antibiotics for therapeutic purposes, and then with those that are not going to impinge or affect humans. And along with all that will come more biosecurity, and the processing plants and the retailers ultimately will demand much more traceability, and we have to be prepared to have this traceability all the way throughout the system. It's interesting, in Canada, they put the picture of the farmer on the pack of chicken portions or the chicken to show them that this is where this came from. So that's traceability, and that's open traceability. And that's the things that we're going to have to learn to do in the future. And then we need to make sure that we practice a very good animal welfare practices. And this is particularly important here, with about 21% of the population as vegetarian. And I'm just going to show you this because I think it's important. This was a front page article not too long ago in the Times of India. Now, you will be surprised how well-funded the animal activist groups are, and it's something we have to be cognizant of. I will quote you something. I saw a letter from the Mercy for Animals, and this was a letter, this is an activist group in California, the USA. And they were trying to go for sponsorship, and they were looking for $250,000 sponsorship. And I quote, to launch robust undercover investigations efforts in India. So we have to be very sensitive to these groups. They don't go away. And we are maybe a little bit more sensitive because we have a very active vegetarian group of people in the country. And what we need, again, is one voice. And it's difficult for the industry to respond and dialogue to things like this without having a one voice representing the industry. And just finally, some further thoughts. Fully integrated poultry businesses will flourish. They are beginning to develop now more rapidly, and we will see that system becoming very much a part of the driving force to grow the business in India. Poultry farmers will get more stable and better returns from partnering with integrations. It's going to be very difficult for them to remain independent in the future makeup of the industry. And it will give them the security and also the opportunity to invest. Remember this, we are not shopkeepers, we are farmers. At the end of the day, we are farmers. We don't spend most of our time in the shops. Specialist poultry shops will do well and will be part of our business. But we have to do them properly and learn new skills of retailing. And we have to make sure we carefully evolve our product portfolio coming out of the branding, coming out of the processing plant. Believe you me, the 80-20 rule will apply in the chicken business as much as anything. 20% of your profit will come, 80% of your profit will come from 20% of your lines. And the other lines are just carrying. So you need to very carefully listen to what the consumers want and evolve and develop your product portfolio. I would avoid a QSR business. I think that's very tough. That's not to say we wouldn't supply it. Of course, we want to be a major supplier, but I wouldn't get into doing QSR business. It's very tough, very competitive, and very, very demanding. But as a supplier, yes, we should. I think we'll see less reliant on migrant labour. I think we're going to go local a bit more now. I think this is probably something that perhaps has come out of the COVID pandemic, and of course also with the importance of having more skilled labour as we become a more sophisticated industry. More renewable energy, solar. Why wouldn't you have solar if you've got 365 days of sunshine a year? And remember, the oil price will bounce back. The Middle East countries are not going to let that happen. The oil price will bounce back, and these countries are very, very big consumers of chicken. So let's hope that their industries recover. So we will have to look at more renewable energy for sure. And of course, the main thing is attracting and training young, talented people to join our industry. It is very, very important. We put a lot of effort into doing such. So I'd like to say stimulating the consumer demand for chicken to be eaten will be the single most important objective for the industry. At less than 5 kilos per person per year, we've got a long way to go. And this, I believe, achieves the objective of the seminar by this industry contributing to boosting the Indian economy. And we can do that by pleasing more chicken. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Is it audible? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. So it was a very detailed and elaborate talk, Paul, and you have briefed right from where you have left, right from the start, from the cages, and up to where the stocks are to be kept. And as you rightly pointed out, India has to go a long way ahead in the hygiene and the quality and the way we process the meat and all that, as I understand it. But the little problem is the margin when they sell their product, mostly as you rightly said, this is the return as the whole and all that. So by the time the farmers get it, it's the thing is so long. So, and as things rightly said, fully automated system and also the biosecurity.
Paul, I have a few questions.
Yeah.
So the first one is there any problem, as you have suggested that there will be a change in the rearing practice from deep litter in broilers to cages. So conventionally, it is thought that cages are not convenient. So is there any problem related to a change to the cages?
Not really. I don't think there's a problem. It's just another. It's another management system, and broilers grow perfectly well on deep litter, as we know, because we've been doing that for many years. The broilers in cages is a relatively new system, although it's been practiced in some countries for quite a number of years. What the benefits of that broilers in cages is, it gives you. It certainly is it's higher initial investment, but you're getting a lot greater output per square meter from having broilers in cages. Now, you need to learn about how to manage cages because they are quite complicated, and you do need to understand how to manage those. And they're obviously suited and best used in enclosed environment housing. But both systems are now available. I think we will see more of broilers in cages, perhaps for the larger integrations.
The next question is, there was a suggestion that we should change from wet markets to processed chicken.
Yeah.
So, in a country like India, huge investments to set up poultry processing halls is not a quick solution. What is your point on this?
Absolutely right. It's not a fast, quick solution. It's going to take time. I think one of the lessons we've learned from the pandemic is that poultry processing is going to be much more important. If we lose, if there is less live birds slaughtering, the wet markets will need to have supplies of product coming into the markets, and that can only be done through processing. And I suspect you will find companies that are already in the processing will begin to expand their business, but I also see smaller processing units being established in different parts of India, which will provide a localized product for the traditional wet markets.
Okay, another question is, environment controlled houses would improve production. You just mentioned a point like that. And as you know, majority of the Indian farmers are relying on open-sided sheds where there is no climate control.
Yeah.
So, what's your take on that? Would people invest a lot in markets which are so fragile? Would they invest in setting up environmentally controlled houses? And one more addition, if at all they'll go for that, what is the minimum size of a shed or the number of birds that is economically feasible for a farmer?
Okay. Well, on the first part, I think the initiative that I saw, that I put up on the slide is a wonderful initiative. And it gives the farmers the opportunity to benefit from closed housing. Let's be honest about it, though. There are some wonderful farmers working with very rudimentary conditions in open-sided houses. And let's also know that for about 3 or 4 months of the year, the weather drastically affects the birds. If you use controlled environment houses and you do it properly, you take that away. The weather is then no longer a feature. Now, you do have to learn how to manage controlled environment houses. You have to pay much more attention to ventilation and humidity. But the benefits are that you are no longer affected by those horrible conditions of heat and humidity. You are allowed, it gives you the opportunity to increase your stocking density and increase your returns. What is the appropriate size? That's quite difficult. I think traditionally open house farming, the farms are quite small. We're talking about 4,000 or 5,000 and sometimes less. My view would be a minimum of probably about 10,000 birds would be probably feasible. But there again, with that initiative that we saw, they will work out the economics for you that suit your particular business. And then you will be able to spec your house accordingly.
Okay. Would you just elaborate that point on the 80-20 ratio? The 80-20 ratio that you...
Yeah, okay. If you're running a processing plant and you've got a brand and you're developing your products, and there are, you see, chicken is immensely versatile, so you are going to have a plethora of products that from fresh to marinated to ready to cook, to ready to eat, to battered and crumbed and everything. You can go, it's endless. It's wonderful product to work with, chicken. But the danger is you're going to generate too many line extensions, right? And what happens is you find that 20% of those lines are really your top sellers, right? And they generate 80% of your revenue and your profit. And the other 80% of the lines are really just taking up space. Be very, very rigid with your product development programs. I'll give you an example. There's a supermarket in the UK called Marks and Spencer's, and they have a golden rule. You can spend 2 or 3 years, and believe it or not, I have spent 2 or 3 years developing a product for them, and we put it on the shelf. Now, their rule is if it doesn't sell £20,000 in one day, it comes off the shelf. It doesn't matter if you spend 2 or 3 years developing it, it's off the shelf. And so that's the way they keep ahead of the game, because they've only got top sellers on the, they're ruthless with that. So you have to be a wee bit ruthless with your product portfolio. Don't get it overscrapped. Otherwise, you'll have a warehouse full of products that's not selling.
Okay, thank you. That point was clear. What is the breeder parent stock strength in India? And is there any hope of India becoming self-sustainable, or this parent stock sector becoming self-sustainable in the near future?
I don't know quite what that means. But there's about 35 million parents, we believe. It's around about 35 million parents, parent stock in India. And you see there's a huge potential for it to grow. That delivers 5 kilos per capita, you know. So if you want to get up to the world average, you're going to be multiplying this 35 million by about 3 or 4 times, you know, to get to the world average. So India is going to be, well, one of the top 3, if not the top 2 of the parent stock volumes in the world. Now, is that sustainable internally with local breeds or whatever? No, I don't see that. It's just not going to work. It's not going to do it. There might be niche markets and things of that nature. Of course, that happens in any big market. But the markets for mass production and mass sales is going to require genetic material of the highest order and constantly improving to meet the requirements of the and meet the demand. Okay. What we don't want is imports. We want to try to avoid imports of finished poultry meat coming from other parts of the world. That's what we must be protecting ourselves against. And to that, we also have to get ourselves a bit more competitive. Okay.
Okay, so you are suggesting that the parent stock should come from outside, that the genetic material should be good.
No, we don't. We shouldn't be importing parent stock. We need here a nucleus of great grandparents.
Parent stock. Okay.
In order for us to develop our own parents. Yes.
Okay. What is your suggestion to change the mindset of people? The Indian people are more happy to have or to purchase meat from the wet market. Do you have a strategy to change their mindset? Even though COVID is demanding it, do you suggest any strategy?
Well, I think COVID, the COVID pandemic is doing a lot of that for us. I don't think people will want to touch live bird shops in the future. They just want to do live markets or even live bird shop. And the public health people are having kittens because they don't know quite what to do. They can't afford to have something going wrong in these cities. And remember, if you've got a city of size of Delhi or Mumbai in 250 million people, I mean, you've got to have some protocols in place. I do think there's a big role still for wet markets, but they have to get much better at how their standards of hygiene and the way they present the product and all the things that satisfy the public health. Now, that product going into those wet markets will come from a processing plant.
Yes.
Now, that's good for him because he can choose what he wants. He can choose this cut or this cut. If he wants chicken feet, he can bring chicken feet. Doesn't matter. I mean, that is also an advantage for him in the wet market to offer more for them and still keep it fresh.
Yeah.
But it's got to be clean, it's got to be hygienic, and it's got to be presented well.
Okay, thank you, Paul, for the answering almost all. You have answered all the questions. You've taken a good session.
There are
Over to
questions
ma'am.
in the chat box.
Sir, we have, sir, I have a question to ask. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Sir, you have spoken about easy houses. I think more, farms are coming up. Easy houses are coming up in some states. What's the average power consumption per bird? What will be the average power consumption per bird per cycle? Just to calculate the cost.
I've no idea. I don't have an idea, but I know somebody who does, and I can find that out for you, Mr. Ahmed.
And again, is it possible to rear the birds in multi-tiers, broiler, like in this thing, layer industry, birds are reared in 5, 6 tiers. Is it possible to rear?
Yes, it is. Yes, and I mean, that's the advantage of broilers and cages. You're absolutely right. I would tend to avoid 6-tier cages. It's very difficult to manage birds in 6-tier cages because you can't see them. What I have seen so far in India is about 4 tiers high. I haven't seen anything above that. 4 tiers is good from a house size point of view, and also particularly from a management point of view, being able to look at the birds, observe them, make sure they're fine. So yes, 4 tiers. And that, of course, is where the benefits come from increased stocking density per square meter.
And one more question, sir. What about the use of bacteriophages? One of my friends is producing this bacteriophages for cold farms. So do we use, are they used in for prevention of diseases worldwide?
Yes, they are. And I do have a paper I can send you on that particular subject. It's a fairly recent document that came out. I can make sure that I send that to you. Yes. It was prepared by our technical people.
Okay, Mr. Paul, kindly share it to me. I'll give it to sir.
Yes, I will. And also I will send the electricity consumption for closed houses.
Oh, thanks. Then another question, sir. I don't know whether it will be controversial or not, but what about the comparison of breeds? Comparison, because various breeds are coming up here. Which will be most suitable?
I'm a chicken salesman. What am I going to tell you? I think the two main breeds, in fact, actually, there are probably 3 breeds here now that are all equally suited to whatever management system you would prefer to use.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Paul, just one more question.
Yeah.
How would we manage vegans? They are now quite vibrant all over the popular media.
Yeah.
Facebook and all media. That is a propaganda to change to vegetarianism. And as you showed a photograph of a bird, which was taken by PETA.
Yeah.
So, how do you suggest overcome this propaganda?
Well, I think on a number of fronts. First of all, you must have some sort of dialogue. First of all, you must have one voice as an industry speaking from the same page. You must also have a dialogue with the activists in some way or other, and particularly a dialogue with the government, mainly through the government. And so that has to be set up. This will not go away, as other countries have seen and are experienced from around the world. The activist lobbies become very strong and very powerful. One has to be very cognizant of the fact that they're here, and they will promote vegan and non-meat products. That's on one front. On the other front, we have to also promote our product much more effectively. And again, I think through poultry industry councils and this sort of nature, where they have advertising and promotional and marketing sectors to really push the benefits of the chicken. We have a wonderful, wonderful product. It's immensely versatile and it's healthy and it's got all the right things. It hits all the right buttons, but we've got to tell people, a lot more people about it. And that's very obvious because we're only eating 5 kilos per person. Huge opportunities for do that. So that's also a counter to whatever the the vegan lobby wants to do. Promote our product as well.
Okay, thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Well, have you tried through the chat box? Have you gone through the chat box? There are a few questions there also. Like Dr. Sendhu had asked for the economically even size of the environmental consumption to be promoted at farmers level. All there are a few questions that come up in the chat box.
Ma'am, that last question about Nepal.
No, I was asking from previous there is a question on the sites of should be promoted at farmers level. And also, he has asked, is there any concern developed for dressing kind of birds on leaves to reach the farmers? Can you see that?
Dr. Anthony, I can't understand.
No, it's
I can't hear.
questions just in the chat box.
I can't hear properly.
Okay, madam. Most of the questions we have asked here. Dr. Sendil had asked about the capacities of EC houses.
Yes.
That was addressed. Paul has said that the minimum size should be 10,000.
Okay, right. Okay.
Okay. Okay, ma'am. Over to you. We can conclude the session.
Okay. Thank you for again from Veterinary University for being with us this morning and all the inputs we have got to look into the piece for which they have to develop the poultry industry. Thank you very much on behalf of all the delegates and Kerala Veterinary Animal Sciences University.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Paul.
Bye-bye, sir.
We thank you on behalf of the organizing committee and the whole of the university for
Thank you.
taking such a great session. Thank you, ma'am, for chairing the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Now to all the participants, the next session starts by 11:30 a.m. The next session is by Dr. Ranjit, and the topic is advancements in hatchery for better output and further productivity. So I hope all of you would be present by around 11:30. And regarding the feedback form, there were several queries. We'll be posting it in your email IDs only after the completion of the entire webinar series. So you can answer to all the sessions, and after collecting the feedback forms and evaluating them, we'll be generating the certificates. It will take some time. We got a lot of query regarding the feedback forms. Do not hurry. After the entire session, we'll be sending you the feedback forms, which you'll have to fill and send back. After evaluating the forms, we'll be generating your certificates. Okay? Okay, thank you. The next session starts at 11:30.